The Behemoth Brewing Company presents the Department of Conversation with Pat Brittenden. Behemoth, give me something hoppy.
Well, kia ora whānau, and we are incredibly excited to be welcoming to the podcast today Ruby Tui. Ruby, hello and welcome.
Kia ora ngā tālofa. Thank you, Pat, for having me on. Very excited to be here today.
Dude, so excited to have you here. It's just, I don't know, we've been talking to several kind of Olympians, and we've had your gold medalist captain on for everything. We had some of the rowing girls on. We had some former Olympian gold medalists on, and we've been chomping at the bits to have a chat with you. And so we're so glad that you can give us a little bit of time. I'm wondering, you're in lockdown. Are you still in Auckland right now? Are you in the Tāmaki Makaurau?
Yeah, bro. I drew the short straw. I'm the only one of the whole team who took the risk and came to Auckland, and they're all out having a great time, and I'm stuck here, bro.
So are you based, because you had I know that you were associated with, or you lived in and around Tauranga for a while. Do you live in Bay of Plenty, or do you live in Auckland now? Like, where's permanent home?
Yeah, Tauranga, once you sign a contract, men's or women's in the Sevens, you sign that dotted line, you got to live in Tauranga. So I love Tauranga, I love living there, but I do come up here quite a bit. My partner's got a job up here, and I work for Sky Sport and stuff, so I do plenty up here as well. And I thought, I might just be in lockdown for a week or so, but hey, COVID gets here, doesn't it?
But kind of cool, though, because your partner works for Flavour, yeah?
Yeah.
And if you had have gone home to Tauranga, I guess there's swings and roundabouts, aren't there? Like, you would not been able to see your partner who would have been stuck in Auckland, but now I guess there's friends and families in Tauranga you can't see, so I guess it's a bob each way, so to speak.
Yeah, my family are all over the place, all over New Zealand. I've still got to get to Wellington, the west coast of South Island, and Christchurch. They're like my go-tos on my leave. But yeah, I was just thinking, if it did go long term, and then my partner Danny's in Auckland working, and I don't get to see her, like, I'd probably go a bit crazy with that. I'm a person who probably worries about other people. Like, I'd freak out if I knew my partner's freaking out and I can't help her, or my family or whoever. So I know what I'm like, and I know what I'd freak out more of. So took the risk, and can't believe we're still in level 4, bro.
Is that something that hits you on the rugby field? If you worry about other people more, how do you hit the opposition as hard as you possibly can when you're tackling them? Or I watched all of your stuff when you were in Tokyo, and I noticed some of the conversation you had after the Russian game. And do you feel more for the opposition with the results, especially if you guys are cruising through and winning? But what about that, that if you're thinking about them, how do you hit them as hard as you possibly can?
Yeah, I might sound a bit crazy when I explain this, but I'm 100% for the people. I like to sit down, nut it out. Sometimes Gossie, who you talk to, Sarah, my captain, gets a bit frustrated at me because I want to go till we can get unanimous. I want to hear all the different points of views, and I want to make sure everybody's in some sort of way heard and listened to. And that it does take a bit of time sometimes. But on the field, bro, when you cross that white line, you choose what jersey you put on, right? So if I'm out there and I'm playing for that black jersey, and these people have taken the field with me and we've gone to war with me, as far as I'm concerned, you put on that other jersey and you cross that white line, you're facing us. It's like, okay, you think you can get one up on us? Well, I'm gonna respect you as much as I can, and I'm gonna give way more than you've ever had in your whole life. And whoever leaves this field, win or loser, we're all going to get better, because I'm not here to play hardsies. I'm here to give you my best. And if you could be my best, bro, props to you. But I promise you, you probably can't.
Well, that's evident. There's been several clips with you going around the world. Of course, there's the world famous BBC one, which we might have a look at some stage, but also the one when you were talking to the Australian show, and the male host was giving you some grief, and you held up the gold medal. I can't quite hear you. There's this gold gets in my ears a little bit. So I think you've answered that by winning the gold medal. I think it was Michael Jones. Yeah, it was Michael Jones. I'm going to paraphrase what he said, his quote, but who said something, because he was challenged sort of in a tongue-in-cheek way about being sort of I won't play on Sundays Christian, and how he can hit the other person so hard. And his response was, the Bible says very clearly, it's better to give than receive. So that was his response to tackling full on and going hard nuts at it. But yeah, no, it's cool.
He's a lovely guy, Michael Jones. I love him. He's Samoan, he's a flanker, and he was the loveliest guy. But you're right, he's just absolute animal on the field. And like, I don't think we play sport or play rugby or go to the Olympics to just take the gold. You want to go out there, give your best, and just make sure whoever wins it's because they've given their best. And if someone gives their best and beats me, that's beautiful. Like I'll 100% take that. I will happily lose if that's the way it's supposed to go and their best is beaten mine. But in the same sense, we're trying to help each other. It's like why play sport and only give 50%? Like we're here to give our best, you know, and find who's the best of the best. Like I don't want to be the best of the worst. I want to be the best of the best. Like, you know.
Is that what silver medal is? Best of the worst?
Well, but I've got a whole new meaning of what silver medal means for me personally. It's a representation of everything, bro. All the obstacles, everything we went through, all the hard times, and being able to look at it every day and say, I know I have it in me right here to go one better. So yeah, silver taught me a lot more than the gold did.
Yeah, that's interesting. So it sounds like one of those, people so often say it's not about getting knocked down. It's how you pick yourself up from being knocked down, which shows the character.
Yeah, I don't know what your platform is, and I actually didn't bring my silver from it's still in the container coming back from the Olympics. But if you look at our medals, the material that it was made from in Rio was a different material to any of the Olympics, and it actually decomposed with human oil on your hands.
Really?
And so we found out pretty quickly, those of us who were pretty generous with it. I was one of those. I gave it to every kid who wanted to touch it, everybody. I never wrapped it up or nothing. But I know a couple of the Olympians like Eddie Dawkins, he was real careful with his. I remember he was like, no. And I was like, why is he doing that? Anyway, fast forward 4 years and there's so many dents in it. It's all decomposed. Like we actually had the option to send it back to Rio to get a new one. I didn't want to take that risk, but that's the kind of material it was. And I remember I would go to schools and hands down guaranteed if they were like under about 8 or 9 years old, bro, they just drop it. They drop your Olympic medal and you're sitting there going, oh my goodness. But I love it now because I look at it and it's got all these marks and dints and everything, and it's just such an amazing metaphor for everything we went through, all the bloody chips and obstacles, that we had to go through. I love it.
I remember when I was at school, it's a bit embarrassing, I can't remember which one, but the kayakers from the 80s, Paul McDonald, Ian Ferguson.
Nice.
I think it was Ian Ferguson. Anyway, I think it was Ian Ferguson, was an old boy of the school I was at, and he came and did, they'd won their gold, and they came and did a speech at the school. And he said to me sort of the opposite. He said he learned very quickly that what people tend to do when they hold his gold medal is they bite on it because they want to see if it's real gold. And he said there was teeth marks in it. And when he realized that people started doing that, he stopped giving his medal out to people. He just showed them.
It's a bit like that, eh? Like you don't really, when you win a medal, you don't really know, there's no how to deal with it or look after it. You kind of learn the bloody hard way. And yeah, I remember my nephews were very young at the time, and the Rio one came in this wooden box. I still got it, and it was real flash. It was like that, and you open the top like that. Like it was a really nice design. Anyway, my nephew comes along, rips it open like that, and just ripped the whole top. I was like, oh my goodness. So yeah, but with the gold, I'm a little bit more, I'm a bit more, learn the lesson, so I'm a bit more careful with it.
It is funny how, though, it tells that story. Like, I'm thinking, I love watching those kind of car, fixing up car shows on Discovery Channel and that kind of stuff. And how sometimes a classic car in its original state with all the dents and that kind of stuff is more valuable than a completely repainted, because it's about the originality of the car and the story that comes with it. So it's interesting thinking about a medal in that way now, because I think for me, being a selfish prick, I'd probably want to kind of and keep it perfect and make it hang perfectly. But yeah, it'd be interesting to also think about the story that came with it. Remember that little shit and Tikawiti who dropped it, and that's that dent right there. But it's part of the story.
Yeah, 100%. And I made it. I remember it was such a mental challenge to because I talk about perspective all the time, but the silver was a massive one. It was really difficult to turn that into a positive, just in the immediate, 24 hours. And so that was a huge personal growth in my mindset, that silver medal. So it's like, I remember going, I want to share this with the country. So every school, every tournament we went to, I no second thought. I said I let them wear it, I let them touch it, I let them hold it, take a photo with it, everything, because I wanted to share the learnings I had, the experience. And I'll never forget when Lisa Carrington came into our program before we were professional. She'd just won her first gold medal in 2012, and she come to our sevens trials, our camp, and I'll never forget holding my very first Olympic medal, and I remember saying to myself, because girls were chucking it on, I was like, Ruby, don't put this on. The only Olympic medal you'll put on is your own. Cool. So it was a huge experience, powerful moment for me holding my first one, then I just wanted everyone I could ever possibly meet to have that experience. Like, you know, maybe hold a silver and say, I'm going to get a gold, or hold a silver and go, I'm going to go to the Olympics. I just really wanted to share that.
And so you didn't put on Lisa's? You didn't wear it?
No. Never put it on.
That's cool, man. I mean, there are some things. I think the Football World Cup, you're not allowed to touch the trophy unless you're like a dignitary or a previous winner.
Wow.
But I don't know what I was thinking about, but it was whatever sporting event I was watching. I was thinking about that the other day, thinking about, like, you know how at the start of the tournament, the two captains will take a photo with whatever the trophy is, thinking, I wonder if any captains go, I'm not going to touch that. I don't feel I'm able to touch that until I've earned it. It might be difficult for PR for a captain to do that, but it's an interesting dynamic of, especially something so precious as an Olympic medal. So few people have them, that until you earn it, do you really deserve to wear it? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that's a weird one. Like, I mean, maybe you could go, I can put a kayakers one on, but I'm not going to put a footy one on because it's going to be my one, or you could kind of handle it in your own kind of right. But I'm pretty strong-minded once I set my mind to something. And
yeah.
I in 2011, when it got announced, rugby was back into the Olympics since 1920s, and this time in a sevens form. And Jonah Lumu was a part of the crew who got that over the line with the Olympic Committee. There's no way. I was putting my best foot forward for that.
But probably for someone like you, it would be something you're like, I want one for myself. So for someone like me, who's never going to get one, maybe it would be like, I was just thinking about what would be the equivalent of other things, like the Oscar. You know, I'm never going to win an Oscar. I mean, I don't know your future. I mean, Kobe won one. Who knows what's in your future, Ruby? But if you're never going to win an Oscar, maybe you'd be more comfortable having a bit of a play with someone's Oscar, because it's not necessarily what any of us are really going to aim to achieve. It's foreign. It's the other side of it. But you were going for a gold medal, so maybe there's a difference with that. You know, this could be yours, and you want to earn it properly or something.
Yeah, I remember 2013, 14, 15, one of the few, they had the Olympic torch at one of the tournaments. I was in Brazil, that's right, because that was where the next Olympics was, and I ran to touch that, I sprinted to the front of the line, so I made sure I grabbed that, because, you know, like, I can't win that, but that's something I wanted to be a part of. I was just thinking, though, that there's podcast awards out, Could get a gold one of them.
Well, they're actually happening at the moment, and we're all putting our entries in. There's a New Zealand Podcasting Award, and there's very international ones, but yeah.
Yeah, that's cool, bro. I mean,
we'll see.
And I reckon, because I was looking at a few of your guests, and was it Marama Davidson?
Had her on, I think, 3 times now. She's almost,
cool.
You could almost, you know how people say in radio, a friend of the show. She probably actually is. She's been on 3 times. We did a series for lockdown called Fireside Chats, where it wasn't really a podcast like this. It was more just us hanging out. And I just texted her and said, dude, do you want to come on? This is what we're doing. And she's just like, well, she didn't say fuck yeah, because she's a politician. She wouldn't do that. But she was like, of course, because it was more about, I was working on News Talk ZB when the Christchurch earthquakes happened.
Cool. Oh, no
and
way.
I know that those late night conversations are the times when people go, they feel more nervous and more isolated. And I just thought, I wonder if that's the case with lockdown. Let's do some things in the evenings, live stream them, let people join in and just have chats. And that was sort of what we did. So she's been on the podcast twice and done one of those fireside chats. So yeah, she's cool, man. She's the business. And I've worked with her dad as well, Rawiri. Not that I knew that at the time, obviously, but I did a couple of things way back, some guest spots on Shortland Street and stuff, and he was there. And so they're an amazing family. She's good fun.
Oh, that's so cool. That's cool you say that, because I was actually at uni when the earthquakes hit down in Christchurch. I was at Canterbury Uni, and like just having that sense of, like, you're sitting there freaking out, but having that sense of you're not alone in that would have been massive, bro. So thanks for doing that.
That's what we were doing. It was talkback, obviously. I was like bottom of the totem pole. I was doing the overnight stuff, but the overnight stuff ended up being the time where everyone couldn't sleep, you know, and so people were up and awake. And because what happened at the time, for people who like aren't in New Zealand watching this or listening, or who can't remember so much, is what they did with all the radio stations for NZME is they put them all on News Talk ZB. And I think on MediaWorks, they put them all on Radio Live, because they were the talk stations where all the news was. So all of a sudden, I don't know, I can't remember how long that lasted, but all of a sudden there's like nighttime talk, people's voices going out on all the radio stations,
cool.
across the country. And I think that's why I learned that lesson. I learned that, you know, people sometimes just need to have, it doesn't even need to be a sensible or a known or a, you know, competent voice, sometimes just a voice.
No, 100%.
Yeah, it was one of those. I mean, different things, but I remember a couple of times where I think back to that career, which is sort of behind me, the radio broadcasting. A couple of the things that I remember as sort of highlights for me, highlights meaning things I'm proudest of, were really hard moments. Like one was I was on air when 9/11 happened. And then there was the Christchurch quakes. And so these things where you realize how that medium does things that others can't. And you'll know from your partner, you know, when you're live and you're talking to a nation, you can do things that certainly a newspaper can't do. And it's a lot harder for a television station to do, but radio stations can. So yeah, it's a really interesting dynamic. And I'm glad in this, even though I moved away from it and I'm doing this digital thing, but in this day and age when we're all saying, oh, you know, radio's finished, it's really not. Certainly in this country, it's as strong as ever, actually, and going for it.
Yeah, definitely. It's company you can have without doing anything, and you know, music's great, and how we can bloody stream any single song in the whole world we want whenever we want. You're right. We can't have that connection that radio has with us, and yeah, I've definitely learned that from Danny. She was on, similar to what you're saying. It's making me think of, she was on during the terrorist attacks in Christchurch, and you know, she was working massive days, wasn't sleeping, and all the energy was gone. But the people calling up were they're just crying because they're so happy to have someone to talk to. Like, yeah, there's still a massive role for radio to play. Like, that's cool that you did all those things. You would have changed lives and helped people. I definitely 100%.
There's certainly moments, and without kind of trying to brag, I know that there was moments where people were massively impacted. You know, we played, there's an artist called Cindy Ruakere who made a new national anthem. Well, not a new national anthem. She re-recorded the national anthem, but in her style. And we played that a couple of times on one of the nights I was working. And then that got 10,000 downloads that day and was played on the ZM Breakfast Show and on the Classic. Because I was doing the overnight shift, all these radio hosts heard this song as they were driving in to do their breakfast shows.
Right.
And it went ballistic. And we heard stories about the breakfast shows playing the national anthem and people in the malls, just like the whole mall just freezing and just everyone standing still and listening. So yeah, there's been some moments, you know, but I guess it is sad because, you know, hard and heavy moments are sad. I mean, I wish there hadn't been a quake in Christchurch, obviously, and with all the tragic and saddest. So it's kind of, there's a duopoly where you kind of go, some of my proudest moments, but also they're because of some of the horriblest moments, just for what I've done in broadcasting. So it's it's crazy, eh?
No, 100%. I think that's part of it. And without people like you or something to connect us all, they would have been even more horrible, bro. So it's like, you know, it's one little way to kind of help people through. I did want to ask too, like while we're talking about your experiences and stuff, you've had a few Olympians on this podcast, and I was just, you know, talking about moments and stuff. Was there any like crazy stuff you thought or learned, or because you had Eric Murray on, Uncle Eric? He's just, I love that guy. Like, he's awesome.
I tell you, the when you say crazy things I learned, what I love to learn is how people get to where they've gotten. And one of the crazy things that I learned about the rowers, and I love it, is that even though obviously in the world of sport, you know, men are stronger than women, you know, in rowing in particular, the double sculls or the quads are faster than the single sculls. But in rowing, they do this thing where they all learn to train together and they all race each other. And they do it by sending out the female single scullers, and then like whatever's the next fastest, like the male single scullers, and then the female, you know, double scullers, and they send them all out timed so they'll come to the finish line at the same time. And so then you have the eights going. So the eights leave last because they're the fastest, obviously. And it's a race. So it's a handicapped race. And they race each other, and that's how they train. And they work it out, I think, based on what the world record times are. So if the single scull female world record time is, I don't know, 4 minutes 20, then that's the time they give her to do that race. And if the same for the eights is 2 minutes 45, then that's the time they give them. So they all kind of cross that finish line at the same time, and none of them want to lose. So I thought that was a really cool way of going in a small country, how you train against opposition, even if there's not 10 female single scullers at your level. What you're doing is you're actually racing the male quads or the male eights, and they still do it as a way together. I thought that was pretty cool. That was a pretty cool way to do it.
Yeah, that's awesome. That whole rowing setup, like they're something else. They're so awesome. I think they are ahead of the field and just treating athletes like athletes. It's not like, you know, female, male. They've got, you know, obviously individualized stuff, but they're such a cool bunch of people. And I love the Olympics. Like like Rio was awesome, Tokyo's always awesome. We just all go like that, because they're just a totally team focused such setup and really good people. And I think it's because stuff like that, they don't go, oh yeah, we don't have 5 other women to race against. They just make it work, like in a world class dominant way. I freaking love those guys.
The other thing I learned, and you can speak to this because you were there, is that I didn't get the feeling that some of them literally said that when they're competing in an Olympics and they're wearing that black singlet or black jersey or black whatever leotard, they feel like they are more representing all of New Zealand because of the whole team, like because they're in the same team as the rowers and the cyclists and the shot putters and everything. Whereas when let's say the rower is competing somewhere else, and it's still a campaign, they're wearing a black shirt, they said it feels different. And I was interested by that because I would think you're always representing your country, whereas I've got my black merino on. You're always representing your country, but a couple of people described that when you're in the Olympics, it feels like even more so, because of the team around them that's not necessarily part of their sport. How did you experience that?
Oh, that's absolutely accurate. Gosh, I love those guys. Just all have a big podcast with them. So obviously we play footy, so we're playing rugby. We try to dominate the World Series, the Sevens World Series, rugby, and then all of a sudden we're at the Olympics and it's like, oh, this ain't no rugby festival, because rugby's right in New Zealand, but not the rest of the world, bro. And so it's like, holy wreck, we're here with the best, the most ultimate sports, the best athletes in the entire world. Anyone in sporting I've ever looked up to, I've made toast next to now because of the Olympics. It's like, you just open your eyes and like you can't open them wide enough to take in this amazing moment. And because we're all sports mad, it's like heaven on earth. It's like this huge, it's literally like taking a trip up to heaven. If you're sports mad and you just you're in this Olympic village looking around, it's absolutely unreal. There's nothing like it. But the importance for me when it comes to rugby is, so we've got women's rugby, we've got men's rugby. Where do we do? How do we make this better? When the Olympics was announced, that was women's rugby's ticket to get equality in sevens. And because of the Olympics, you can get any sport into the Comgays if you can argue it. You can only put a sport into the Olympics if you have a female and male equal events. That is why the Olympics is so special. Don't come over here with a male-dominated sport. If you want a sport in the Olympics, it has to be male and female in that sport, in that discipline. So for rugby in New Zealand, that's why the Olympics was so important, because we went in there, men's sevens, women's sevens, we need to both be supported equally. We need all equal resources. If they're living in Tauranga, we're living in Tauranga. If they're training 9 to 5, we're training 9 to 5. It was all equal. We've got the same stuff. And, the woman went bloody all right. So it's because of that, the Olympics, men's and women's rugby sevens in New Zealand is 100% equal resources. So for us, the Olympics changed our life. We used to play 15s and play sevens and fundraise and go around the world. Yeah, it was fun. Don't get me wrong. I love the sport. Mm-hmm. But the Olympics changed our lives, bro. The Olympics gave us full-time jobs, same pay, sometimes more pay than some of the guys. Like, not that it's about money, but same resources. And it was just huge for New Zealand.
There you go. You've taught me something. You asked me what I learned from other Olympians. You've taught me something. So I never knew that. So there has to be a men's and women's competition of whatever it is in the Olympics. So if it's judo, men's, women's judos. If it's pole vault, men's, because that's one actually, pole vault. That must be I'm guessing that's a fairly recent rule, because there wasn't female pole vaulting till about 2 Olympics ago, because Eliza McCarthy was one of the. So is that when the rule came in, and that's when they announced rugby as well?
I don't know when the rule came in, because remember back in the day it was just the naked fellas in Athens running around, and it was only men. But sometimes it differs. Like if you look at gymnastics, the women have got the floor and the men have got the rings and horses and stuff like that. So there's different disciplines, athletics and stuff. But if you're gonna have gymnastics, you've got to have a men's one and a women's one.
Gotcha.
But different like that.
Yeah, so the men I don't think the men do the floor routine, do they, with the ball and the ribbons and stuff? So different disciplines, but there's still gymnastics for both men and women.
You have to be able to go to the Olympics for that sport in both genders,
I wanted to ask you as well, you got the big 3-0 coming up in December. How do you feel about the big 3-0, the big 30 coming up?
I was like, 3-0, is it a winning? I don't know what I mean. Yeah, far out. It's just like you dedicate you find something you love, like sevens and rugby and women's rugby, trying to grow the profile, dedicate your life to it, and then you blink and you're bloody planning your 30th. So it's been one hell of a ride. My 20s I've been so grateful for. I've learnt so much. I've grown so much as a person. I'm hoping I can actually do something for it, because COVID, and
Yeah, true.
we never got to have like an Olympic celebration with the team. So whole team's invited. We're hoping to just look back and be proud, and hopefully I can be with my family, man. I'm not actually I'm crossing my fingers, but I'm not gonna believe it till I see it. Being able to see my mum and my dad and my siblings, show them the medals, so I haven't done that. So yeah, it's been one hell of a decade, or over a decade, since I've been in this job.
So what I'm hearing is maybe we should organise the official parade for all the gold medalists in Tauranga, Mount Maunganui, for about the middle of December.
Yeah.
And then you can just tag something onto the back of that with all your mates there.
Yeah, 100%. Couple of bands, a couple of DJs. It'll be one heck of a party.
I'm interested about your journey through your 20s. I saw a podcast the other day where the tagline, or the tease line to the podcast, was talking to you, and it talking about the importance of being you. The importance of being yourself and finding out who you are. And I know you've had conversations before about mental health and how important that is for people to acknowledge it and stuff. I wouldn't mind understanding a bit more, Ruby Tui at 30. How are you different from Ruby Tui at 25 or at 20? And what have you learned along the way to turn you into this person you are today?
Yeah, well, first of all, come on, I'm only 30. I've got lots to learn, lots to
sure.
still go on my journey, far out. Still very, very green at a lot of things in life. But one thing I found about footy, I work very closely with the NZRU set up foundation along with Movember, called Head First. And it's like, I focus here because that's what I know. I'm an athlete, I'm a professional athlete. I've gone through the highest highs and lowest lows. And mentally, like, what do we do to get through that? And when I come in pretty early on, the fellas have blown up, become professional. But at the end of their career, they were going bankrupt, and they were getting extreme depression, and they're just falling off this life with nothing to land on. And it was pretty scary. There was some pretty scary stats. Females are often higher ranking when it comes to statistics around experiencing depression, but when it comes to the suicide and the fatal stuff, it's often the men that lead that statistics. So it's always been a question in my head, why? And then I've come through my journey, and we were absolute amateurs, bro. Like, we had to fundraise to get to sevens tournaments, and which was hard to do as a youngin'. You're still a little bit embarrassed about it too. Then I've kind of come through getting a bit of money, like, traveling the world, the flights paid for now. Right out the other end, now we're full on professional. And what I've found is there's been a huge flip in. I love rugby so much. It's one of my greatest hobbies. In my spare time, I fundraise for it. We organise trips, and then every now and then we get to go away. And now it's completely transformed to, I'm a professional rugby player. All anybody knows about me is my rugby CV. My identity just falls into this rugby place. And of course, sport, we don't play it in our backyard anymore and have to tell people what happened. It's all over everywhere. It's all over every medium platform anywhere. So you are constantly under the spotlight of not how nice were you to the person in the elevator. You're under the spotlight of how many passes did you drop? How many tackles did you make? What was the score? Are you good enough? Did you represent New Zealand well enough in rugby? So full of judgment, bro. And so now the questions kind of turn to, you have to be so solid in your identity and understanding who you are outside of the footy. And it sounds like common sense, and it sounds like you should already know that stuff, but you don't. Like, you look at these young guys, at 1 minute they're trying to get NCA level 2 or 3, next minute they're blown up, they've got 100,000 followers on Instagram, every single thing they do, the man of the moment. And then you kind of fall into that trap. Oh man, these people love me, this is awesome. And then tomorrow someone else is a star, nobody loves you no more. Everyone's he didn't make that many blockbustering runs this game, he's fallen off the wagon, and he's 19 years old, he's not even a man yet, And so mental health has just been such a huge part of my journey in sport. So I've always had a passion for it, often behind the scenes, but it's kind of come to, like, in the public a lot more now, which I love. But it's like, yeah, I'm learning these in sport, but it's like that's just as important in life. Like, who are you? What is your identity? Why are you here? And sometimes that's a scary place to look in the mirror that reveals absolutely everything about yourself. But for me, it's kind of been, to be honest, that's where my success lies, and that's where what you lean on when times get tough in the footy, because we don't win all the time. And I've learned that success and winning on the field don't always go hand in hand. And losing and success and the field don't always go hand in hand. It's a huge picture that's got so much more involved in it. And so I'm actually really grateful to be sitting here going on 30 years old, understanding how important that part of my life is, because you can just sit on this gold medal, bro, and just try and ride that ride as long as you can, that wave, and sit on. I play for New Zealand, and I'm this great rugby player, but at the end of the day, is rugby really the most important thing in the world? And I think when you look into yourself as a person, I just don't think that's true.
You've done this a little bit. I'm not actually going to play the audio to this, but in the background, this is the world famous, BBC, Better Be Clear, BBC conversation you had. I know that you've said you didn't really know it was an interview, and watching you in this interview is really interesting, because you're obviously, it looks like you're lifting weights with buckets as you're talking to it, and then you put the bucket down after it goes in your left hand, like you're still having fun here. You put it down, and then it's just like all of a sudden, okay, right.
Yeah, that's when I thought it started.
I was going to say, was that the moment you realised there was that was the interview, but also B, you talked about this 19-year-old blowing up with 100,000 followers. You've blown up since that moment in a massive way. How has it impacted you?
Yeah, that was crazy. Yeah, I remember after the interview, I walked down and I said to my media manager, Libby, like, what's BBC? Like, we just played Russia and they asked me all about Great Britain. Like, it didn't make sense in my bloody head, and I didn't really take it too seriously, because I didn't know how big of a media corporation they were. And then, it just, apparently they're pretty big, and it blew up.
They're pretty big.
Yeah. And I remember I really wanted to find it to send to my cousins to ask them, did I speak the Samoa okay? Like, can you show granddad? Like, I just wanted to make sure it was all good. But they'd already seen it. Like, they'd already seen it. They'd already was talking about. I was like, what? How? It didn't make any sense. And then when people said, "Oh, the interview," I was trying to think in my head, what interview are they talking about? Because that one I did not think was it, bro. Like, I was just casual yarn, nothing special about it. Didn't give away any tactical secrets. I thought, I had no idea what anyone was talking about. But that's how fast it can happen. Like, people, you don't know what people are going to resonate with. You don't know what's going to hit the bloody algorithm or whatever it is, So that was crazy.
Do you have a tangible knowledge of what happened? Like, did you double your followers on TikTok or Instagram? Do you actually see? Have you actually seen something after that happened, like that you're now twice the number of followers that before the Olympics?
Yeah, it was something like that. Instagram, but more Twitter, because I don't really go on Twitter. Like, I do, but I don't. Like, I'm on Instagram a lot more than Twitter, and that was in the tens of thousands, and I'd never, it was only like a couple thousand. Like, I never pushed it to grow that medium, but that blew up, and I know that holds a lot of weight in the news world, So right. BBC that was where I noticed it was Twitter. I was like, oh my gosh, all of a sudden it matters what I bloody tweet about, so I got to be a bit more careful now.
Now, if it's okay with you, because part of what you're talking about is profile, but you obviously have become someone that people are now looking to, and especially I would think, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but young women are looking to you at the ripe old age of 29 as a senior figure that they aspire to be like or be near, or as an impressive person. I'll show you something, and other people can look at this as well. I happen to have that lives in my house with me a university student called Jordan. Now, Jordan is a rugby player she plays rugby for university in Dunedin. She lives in Christchurch, but she plays in Dunedin and goes to university here. And Jordan did this thing the other day, which a lot of these young people are doing on their TikToks. And she put a message up on her TikTok about people that inspire her. And just so other people can kind of get a gist of what we're talking about, have a look at this for everybody to see. Who inspires you?
Great photo.
So I'm gonna stand up, take my
Awesome,
And I think the exciting thing that happened for Jordan there, she came home after being at university screaming because you had then seen the link to you being an inspiration to Jordan and then reposted it on your Instagram stories. And if it's cool with you, I want to bring Jordan into this conversation right now and you guys can have a chat. Is that dope?
Oh, please. I need to say thank you for that awesome vid she did.
Let's bring her in. There's Jordan. There's Ruby.
Jordan, my lord, what's up?
Kia ora, Ruby. How are you?
Oh, I'm so good. Hey, that vid you made, it probably took you 2 seconds. Would have taken me a lot longer, but no, I really, really loved what you did there. And, you know, it jolted me with all the people you put in, like your people, not just me, but your people after. That was awesome. Thank you.
Oh, thanks so much. No, you inspire me so much, Ruby. So I'm glad. I'm really thankful that you got to see it. I thought it was amazing that you got to interacted with it too.
Oh no, it made me smile so much. What position are you?
8, number 8.
Oh, big runner. I wish I was an 8, man. That's so cool. What, did you play rugby in Christchurch?
Yeah, I played for high school. I have a little bit of experience in my last years of high school around there. And then I decided to play for the university this year, and I thought it was awesome. So much positive team culture. I loved it.
Oh man, this is so cool to meet you and be on the Zoom with you right now. What are you studying at uni?
Marine science.
Oh, nice. There's actually a girl on the team. Do you know Shakira Baker? She's a forward as well. She studied that as well, marine biology. She loved it. And I don't know what you want to do, but one cool thing when we travel with the rugby team, we have like one day off and you can choose whatever you want to do. And we were in Canada one time, me and Shakira, because she studied it like you are. We jumped on a boat, went down the coast of Canada down to America, and watched all these whales. Just we were next to all these whales, and they're like telling us all about it, and it was all paid for, like part of the tourism situation. Like, I don't know how they did it, but so yeah, rugby can maybe help out your study too. I don't know.
Wow, that's mean. Yeah, well, actually, because I'm actually just at university to just kind of experience it, because I wanted to join the Navy, but my application was handed in a bit late. But so I was like, what do I want to do this year that I have? So I decided to just go study for a bit, see what it was like, play some rugby. It was awesome.
Oh wow, what's this guy like to live with?
My best mate.
It's been real cool living with Jordan. Jordan's obviously very knowledgeable because she plays, and so we're always down for the rugby. I just introduced her to John Wick as well. We just watched the 3 John Wick movies, which was education. And I feel as the old fart in the house, so it's good to see you, Jordan. Jordan's gone home for the weekend to Christchurch, so you got home safely. That's good, and drive safely back on Sunday night. I want to make sure that all happens as well.
Do they still do the under 500? You know, the under 500 from Canterbury down to Dunedin, and you got to stay under $500. It was an old uni thing we used to do.
I remember that. I don't know if that's because of COVID. Everything seems to
it's probably illegal.
Topped up. Hey Jordan, if you've got one question you want to ask Ruby, well, what would it be? Anything come to mind that you really want to know?
Oh no, I just want to say thank you, really. One thing I do want to know though is, what's it like for you being a Awhakasi woman?
Oh yeah, great question. Lots of people don't even know what country I'm from when I travel. You know, they think I'm Māori or something. But man, I hold on to my roots so much, and that's why I loved your video, because you had, like me, I guess, but we hadn't met yet. But you had all your people, and it's really important and strong to know where you came from. And like, I was on the phone to my auntie last night. She was born in Samoa, helped raise me. She's moved to Perth now. We talked for an hour and a half, just about everything we've been through. And my granddad in his 30s, he actually fought to get his kids over to New Zealand. And like, I'm 30 now, and I couldn't imagine, he had to pick only 3 out of his 5 kids. What ones am I going to bring first? How am I going to work? How am I going to live? He went through all of that. And then my parents in that generation, went through the struggle of being born in Samoa but raised in New Zealand, trying to be this, trying to be that. And so I sit here today, 30 years old, Awhakasi, first generation New Zealand, thinking, bro, how dare I don't take this opportunity and absolutely take it to the highest heights because of what my family went through and the better life that they fought for. I still go back to Samoa, and that's part of me. I see my great grandparents buried out front of the house that my dad was born in. But it's like, it's not, I'm not a Samoan born in Samoa. I'm Kasi Samoan born in New Zealand, and it's a different identity. It's my identity, and I've got to make that the most positive thing I can for the next gen, So it's like, it's a huge, important part of my foundation, but it's up to me how I'm going to set my sails and use that wind to guide me where I go. So a massive part of where I come from, and I just use that strength to push me forward.
Yeah. Oh, totally agree. So was it easy for you to like find your roots in New Zealand? Did you have a lot of like family around you here in New Zealand, or?
Yeah, luckily I did. I know it's not like that for everybody, but my Samoan side, a bit different to my mother's side. I'm sixth generation from Scotland on my mother's side. They were around me all the time, and I had that direct link to Samoa, and they taught me things that school doesn't teach you, like love, passion, work ethic, dedication, and family. Like there's the words family, whānau, ainga, but it's the people who they're never gonna say no. Whatever you need, they're never gonna say no. And I don't mean that's just blood. You learn that those are the people that you should give your energy and time to, because they're the ones who are gonna give it back in a real way. There's Instagram, there's likes and there's follows and there's people who say these things, but there's not many people in the world who will never say no to you, whatever you need. And that's ainga. And I learned that through my Samoan side. So yeah, it's I'm so blessed. Like, so you're Afkasi, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, cool, bro. We are so blessed. Like, we're so blessed to know and have this culture that we have, and to be able to be in New Zealand, articulate bilingually, and which allows us to empathize with not just these two cultures, but all the other cultures in the world. We've already got a true understanding of globalization, at the end of the day. So it's like, it's a superpower, and it's something that might not always be able to articulate in different languages, but we'll always know how to express it in our hearts. And I think that's an absolute superpower that me and you are blessed with, and we can take that and we can just be humble and low key, or we can, take it in a different direction, which my grandparents probably wouldn't have liked to go on BBC, but I take that, I use that, take it in my stride, and man, I can't wait to see what you do, Jordan. Number 8, I'm going to remember that and look out for you for sure.
Cool. Hey, Jordan, it's lovely. Thanks for joining us for a little bit, mate.
Thanks so much, Pat, for the opportunity. Thank you, Ruby. You inspire me so much.
Whawhetai lava, sis, so nice to meet you, and I look forward to meeting you in real life one day.
Thank you.
And you drive safe on Sunday. We'll see you Sunday night when she gets back into Dunedin from Christchurch. Thanks, man. That was so cool. I mean, you must be experiencing that a lot at the moment, about people coming to you and kind of going, I don't mean this I'm not minimizing the words here, but like, we love you, but because they're inspired by you and they're now looking to you. You made Jordan's day when you did that. You might have made her week, and now you probably made her year by just talking to her, because she looks up to you. Yeah,
it's really cool. Everyone's like, oh, women's rugby is so hard and you don't get much, but being a women's rugby player, it straight away just gives you purpose, bro. Like, everything we do is part of a bigger picture. Without even trying, we're part of this huge mission. And so I just feel so blessed to be so passionate about what I do. And honestly, bro, I know a lot of people else are, but I'm not trying to inspire, like, I'm not trying to stand up here like I'm not just trying to learn my way through life too. I'm not trying to, inspiring people is not my end goal. But if my story can help somebody inspire themselves, that's cool. That's really cool.
I remember someone describing they were a person who worked in parenting, like they help people with parenting. They were lecturing and that kind of stuff. And he used to describe himself as a beggar just trying to help other beggars find bread. He goes, I'm just a beggar trying to help other beggars find bread. Yeah. So I get what you're saying, but I think it's really important to also acknowledge that what you've done so far, even though you've got so much more to do, is still an inspiration to those who are coming after you. I mean, I was thinking about it. Jordan's 19, you're 29. You guys would have been at school at the same time. But just that gap is still enough to demonstrate to someone who's coming out of school into adult life what can be done. And, those people are looking to you, let alone people like me who are, closer to the other end of it, looking at you and kind of going, man, this person is a, phenomenal human being that we can all learn from.
Yeah, I think it's so cool, bro, that you introduced me to Jordan too, because like she's Afakasi Samoan, I'm Afakasi Samoan, and it's like when I talk to people like that, like she might be like, "Oh, I love you and I'm inspired by you," but it's like I see us as the same, and like that truly connects us in that moment. And so it's like I feel like I can talk to those people like I know them, like we're friends. Like I can be my honest, true self and just speak from my heart to her because we're connected in that way. So it's like, yeah, I totally acknowledge our whole rugby team. We've become role models, but it's like I'm still learning from those people as well, and that feeling of connection is something special. Something special about it.
Hey, tell me, from the rugby world, I mean, obviously, most guys have played rugby when they were at school and stuff. I remember on Monday morning, it was when rucking was allowed, we used to take our shirts off and we'd compare to who had the best sprig marks on their back, and that would sort of be the winner of the weekend, who'd been rucked the most. Do you find a fair amount of pride in this photo? Because that's a pretty fucking awesome photo. You look like you're about to get on the scene with Braveheart.
Yeah. That was a rucking good photo, that one. Like, I don't get the BBC because I feel like I was just having a normal everyday chat. But this one, like, I get this. This was like, I did not realize that I look like that. Like, because, blood and sweat, it kind of feels the same.
Yeah. And also those capillaries up around your eyes, they when they go even a little bit, they go. But that was a decent gash you got. I was thinking, you got that at Oceania. Was there ever any question, because that was a good gash, that was too much and that might have kept you out of the Olympics, or was it always going to be fine?
It was funny, bro, because that was the semi or the second to last game. So there was one more game in that day, and they were all the management were like, "Oh, Ruby's out. We're going to watch this cut, look after." And I straight away was like, "Hell no! You stitch this up right now. You strap it up." I know I'm playing because I knew that they could have used that potentially as some sort of hinge for the Olympics. So wow, I was like, no. I was like, no question. You strap this up right now. Let's bloody go again. Like I played again 2 hours after that game because I need to show them, show myself, show my team. I can still do my damn job. I don't need my skin on my forehead to do my job. Like I can do it. So I played that next game 2 hours later to make sure that nobody could use it as an excuse for the Olympics.
See, that's smart as well, eh? Like that's when you state that as like what you did, you kind of go, fuck, that's clever. What you've done is clever, because you obviously didn't want to have to face questions from the New Zealand Rugby Union saying, if you couldn't play that. Yeah, so that's clear. I wanted to know as well, because you've got a pretty impressive track record when it comes to accolades and achievements as well. 2 Olympic medals, the gold and the other one, the gold. The gold and the other one. You've won a gold in the World Sevens. You were the 2019 World Sevens Player of the Year. I wanted to know as well, and I don't want to say that, the whole kind of, what are you going to do after rugby? Because that's a boring question. But we all especially in athletes, have a lifespan. Are there still desires to go to 15s, to Rugby World Cups, to Commonwealth Games? Are those still on the kind of to-do list for you?
Yeah, I wasn't sure how I was going to feel after this gold, because after the silver in Rio, I honestly, bro, I was going to quit. Like I was over it.
Wow.
It wasn't a good culture. I wasn't getting what I got at the beginning of when I started. But I didn't know, you can't read the future, can you? And I won that silver, and I was just like, hit different. And it started a new fire in my belly. I didn't even know was sitting there. So I thought I'd wait to make my decision and see how I feel. And I still haven't got, I haven't even sat down with my coach yet, with the new coach or our team, our leaders. There's still so many conversations I need to have, but I'm definitely not going to hang up the boots after this gold medal. Like there's still that fuel there. And I think it's really important to be honest with yourself in this time, in this moment, because A, you're never going to get this time again. Yeah. B, you don't want to, because I commentate, right? I got a job at Sky Sport and I commentate, and I don't want to commentate no game that I can be like, bro, come on. I back myself to be on that field right now.
I should be out there.
Yeah, and one massive thing I really want to do, I remember this year, the very first ever Women's Super Rugby game was played. So it's not the first ever, they've been the Chiefs before, but the concept of a Super Rugby Championship was the first game I'd seen. And I remember watching it in the crowd, and I just thought, nah, I'm not watching this again. Like, I'm not going to watch the next game of this. So I really want to be a part
Are you
of
saying that
that.
because you want to be out there? You want to be on the
I
field?
want to be a part of growing that Super Rugby comp for women. I think it's a really exciting thing. The FBC, it's getting there, but there's still massive gaps. But with Super, that's the best of the best in New Zealand that we've got. So I really want to be a part of just the process of kicking that off the ground. I'd love to. It'd be an honor to play with some of those players. So yeah, definitely not closing the door, but also you got to be honest with yourself in this moment too, because training's not easy, and you say goodbye to your family a lot more than you want to. So you can't fake wanting to do this job. You can't sit in there and not have that inner, true, intrinsic motivation when you're doing all those sprints. So it's also, I need to be honest with myself here, like, do I really want to do that? What's my why? What's my purpose here? So, and there's still some there, thankfully.
It's an exciting thing to think about as well. When you play 15s, because you're a prop in the sevens, yeah? When you play 15s, what's your natural position there?
Yeah, when I started 15s before I ever played sevens, and I was centre down in Canterbury my first year, and then a couple of the Black Ferns come back, and I got shifted out to the wing. So I've always kind of mucked around in the backs. I got a little bit of speed, which all sevens players probably have to have. But yeah, I love the lines, the space, and seeing it all open up. That's what I love about footy. So.
The sevens, you and Michaela seem to be quite tight. I'm sure you're tight with all of the girls, but there seems to be something kind of special going there. Only because she was a sprinter beforehand. Does she smoke everybody on the team? Like with those sprints, is she the quickest?
Portia and Michaela Blythe, everyone forgets, man. They did athletics. They actually learned how to run. None of the rest of us learned how to run. But I love Minnie. Oh, her nickname Minnie. So she's the fastest. I'm just going to give it to her right now when it comes to testing, because consistency is key. But she knows damn well that I am literally like 0.01 behind her, which means if I'm having a real good day, I can nip her, and she hates it. Like, she hates it. And that's my winger. I need her to be the fastest on the field. I need her to have that. So I'm like, I stay in my lane and I'm a forward, and she's faster than me. I'm not saying she's not, I admit it, but I tell you what, I do everything I can to make sure that if you can't sleep on me. Like, I might be a forward in sevens, but you can't sleep on me. And if she doesn't put her foot down when we come to testing, I'm going to nip her, and she hates that. So, nice. I love my sis.
Yeah, it's very cool. I wanted to talk to you really briefly, and we've probably only got a few minutes left now, about another pretty exciting thing. I think about sometimes sort of those claims to fame. When people say, "Oh, my claim to fame is my claim," and it's normally something that's not famous at all, or it's got, or it's something that they can like my claim to fame is, I once did an interview with Tim Rice, or my claim to fame, or whatever the thing is. And I was wondering if this was one of your claim to fames. Not that you're not doing things that have high profile anyway, but this with Snoop Dogg talking about you guys. I wonder if this is one of your claims to fame, one of the most exciting things that's happened to you. People who haven't seen that, Snoop D-O double Jizzle. Oh, he's up on me now, isn't it? Talking about you guys at the Olympics.
Yeah,
and,
that's right.
referencing basically the haka at the end of the Olympics.
Yeah, yeah, it's up there on Twitter, and that's, I think, Stuff, the Herald. Everyone grabbed hold of it. It's Snoop Dogg reacting to a haka, and people were like, thought I went nuts because he watched our game, but I was going nuts because of the respect he had for our haka. And to me, haka is part of our culture. And our, to me,
I will never get over this. Snoop Dogg watched us.
Okay.
Let's go. Look at him.
This ritual right here is hundreds and hundreds of years old, so it's not nothing that they just made up.
No,
this is powerful. It's also an extreme amount of pressure.
And Kevin Hart in there as well,
Yeah.
showing the love to. But cool, obviously he was greeted with a pōwhiri or something when he came and performed here. So it's, I agree with you. I think it was kind of, some might say it was a bit clunky how he described it, but he described it in the best way he could about how important it is to the country and as part of the culture. And yeah, I think that was pretty cool. Is he someone like musically and stuff? I guess with your partner being a Flavour as well, does that where you gravitate musically as well? Do you like the Snoop Dogg's music, the Dog Father?
Yeah, I think Snoop Dizzle's definitely one of the goats in hip hop industry, just for like surviving that ruthless culture, and hip hop's important. It's all about positively expressing the struggles of oppression and the struggles of life and the positive things in life as well. And I love that because he identified the cultural part, and in our team, culture is so important to us.
Yeah, cool.
And so, for So we're trying to be the greatest team we can be in footy. This fella is one of the greatest there can be in hip hop music. So it was like culture united these two industries, sports and music, which, you know, are two of the most competitive yet celebratory parts in life. And people are always like, oh, keep politics out of sports, or just be quiet and do your music. But it's like, nah, these are the beautiful things in life that absolutely lift our human race up in the world, you know. And so to be able to come together through culture, it was just, that's like one of the most beautiful things you can do in your career. And so I don't know, I haven't talked to him yet. Come on, Snoop Dizzle, like, bring up, bro, come through. But
if you get, I interviewed Tom Francis. He came on the podcast, and Tom Francis is the New Zealand hip hop artist who managed to get into Snoop's studio and do a song with him. I said the same thing to Tom. I said, when hook me up as well, I did podcast with Snoop would be a bucket list. Those claims to fame, those magical moments that happen to us. Like, I've got a little one here that I'll share with you, which is very little. But when NWA put out their when they put out their movie let's look at that, 317 weeks ago, when they put out the movie, I went into this is my LP that I bought in 1988. So it was the original LP that I bought at Queen Street in Auckland back then as an American import. And one of my claims to fame is, if you look here real carefully, see that Curtis Young official? That's Dr. Dre's son.
No way.
Dr. Dre's son liked my post. So that's one of my claims to fame, is that I have absolutely no reason to have any connection, but Dr. Dre's son somehow saw my post on Instagram and liked it. So I can die happy now. I'm one step removed from Dr. Dre.
It's cool though, isn't it? Like, just sorry, real quickly, there's like, you know, we talk about the Christchurch earthquakes in this podcast, the terror attacks. There's so much. We don't need to go looking for the obstacles in life or the bad things. They bloody come, bro. But it's like those little moments where we connect in such a positive way and it makes your day. It's like, we got to celebrate that stuff. Like, let's really feel that. I don't think we should dismiss it as a little claim to fame or whatever. That's like a positive moment in life that deserves our attention, you know? So special.
Well, you've repackaged it for me as a positive moment in life. Since the Olympics, obviously, you've had lots of opportunities and lots of interactions with people. Can you think of anything else that's popped up that you've gone, far out, man? How did this ever happen, like, to little old me? But obviously, this has opened doors for you. If there's been any other of those magical moments or those claims to fame that spring to your mind that you can tell us about?
Rugby's blessed me of heaps. I remember one time, we get asked to like do speeches and give out awards all the time, and this guy asked me in Japan. I was like, bro, I can't. I'm in New Zealand. Like, how can I go to Japan? Anyway, the broker's like, oh, I'll fly you. Like, I'll fly you first class. And I was like, what? Like, for the weekend? He was like, yeah, I'll fly you first class. I'll put you in a 5-star hotel. I was like, oh. And then that weekend was like, I was like, oh, I needed to spend time with my partner. I was like, oh, sorry, I can't. It's my one weekend. And he goes, no problem. I'll fly her too. Like, just come. And I was like, what
weekend
the
in Japan.
So I just got paid to like, and we went out for these meals, you know, like $30,000 meals. I was just like, what the heck just happened? I was just training at home, and now we got a weekend getaway in Japan in this, you know, like crazy hotel with private onsen spas, and like you click this button and like just crazy stuff going on. So it's like, I've had many, many moments like that. Las Vegas, we had crazy times like that. But one, like outside of rugby, even there are still moments in life. My whole life, right, growing up, I always wanted an older sibling. I had older cousins, and my cousins had older siblings. Always wanted an older sibling, but of course, life doesn't work like that. You can only kind of get younger ones. Yeah. When I was 11, my dad introduced me to my 16-year-old sister that I never knew I had.
Wow!
And that was one of the greatest days of my whole life. Like, I'll never forget the moment I met her. I didn't say nothing. I was shy as back then, but inside I was just bursting at the seams. So not just rugby, but life is full of these moments that you don't know are going to happen to you, that they just make you get, you know what they do? They get you through the hard days. You have the most amazing days that you don't see coming, and they get you through the hard times. So yeah, life's full of those, and I'm sure there's plenty more to come for me, for you, and for everyone. So yeah, I know that happens, and I hold on to that.
You know what, Rubes? That sounds like a really nice place to wrap up our conversation for today. I feel like we could probably talk for another hour. But I think that message, like when you were talking to Jordan before, I also thought of that idea about what family is. I heard someone say the other day, I don't necessarily agree with, this doesn't sound very nice, but they say family never says thank you, but family is always there as well. So it's you know, we always talk about like our partners or our parents or our siblings. They're often the people we take advantage of, but they're also the people that we know no matter what, they're always there. No matter how bad it is, they're always there. No matter what goes down and how much we cock up or whatever, or life throws at us, they're always there. So I'm just thinking that we've had a lovely chat about life, the universe and everything. And your message there might be a perfect way to wrap it up and say thanks so much for joining me today. Anything you want to leave people with? You know, you imagine all the Jordans watching this right now thinking, oh, I love that Ruby. Is there anything you want to leave us with? Is there anything you want to leave with the people listening and watching the podcast with?
Oh, look, thank you so much for having me on. I love the conversational style. They're not all like that. So I really appreciate you making this medium for everybody. Thank you so much, Pat. And yeah, probably just... We don't know what we don't know, but one thing that is certain is there is a possibility, no matter how big or small, that it's going to turn out better than you ever imagined. Bro, so, and I promise you that comes true. I did not have the greatest childhood, but I was standing on an Olympic podium with a gold medal around my neck, a silver medal in my hand, and that is better than I could have ever even conceptualized in my head. So the fact of life is there is a possibility it's going to turn out better than you ever imagined. How crazy is that?
Ruby Tui, I can say this now officially, Olympic gold medalist. Thanks for joining us, mate. You are a rock star. It has been so much fun. And hopefully we can do this again one day. I know you're incredibly sought after at the moment, but maybe one day in the future we'll get to do that second hour of the 2 hour conversation that feels like it's so easy to do.
100%, bro. Yeah, sorry. I'm getting through the whole list. I really wanted to be one, and thank you for connecting me with, Jordan's like a little me. That's where I started. So I really, really appreciate you. Thank you so much, bro.